You know that moment when you're sitting at your desk, sipping your lukewarm coffee like it's a fine wine, and suddenly the air turns thick with tension? That's when the boss walks in, all smiles and charm, only to freeze mid-step because they just realized their favorite employee is staring daggers at them. It's like the office has become the set of a dramatic movie, and you're the accidental star, hoping the director doesn't cut to commercial before the climax. The silence that follows is so thick, it could be used as insulation for the entire building. You can hear the clock ticking louder than ever, and the printer seems to be whispering secrets about how this confrontation will end in a way no one wants. The boss, now standing in front of their desk like they're about to give a TED talk, clears their throat with the kind of nervousness that makes you want to hand them a stress ball. Then, it happens, like a plot twist in a sitcom. The employee, who has been holding back all week, finally speaks up. It's not just any comment, it's a full-blown rant about how they feel undervalued and underappreciated. The boss, now looking like they've accidentally walked into a hostage situation, tries to respond with the calmness of a person who once knew how to be diplomatic but has since forgotten. The conversation spirals like a broken spreadsheet, unpredictable, chaotic, and full of misunderstandings. You can see the employee's eyes blazing with a mix of anger and hurt, while the boss is trying their best to keep up with the pace of the emotional roller coaster. It's like they're both playing a game of chess, but neither has remembered the rules. And then, in a moment that feels like it could be the climax of an Oscar-winning drama, someone walks into the office. It's not the CEO or HR, it's the janitor, who just happened to be doing their rounds at the perfect time. The tension breaks instantly, and for a second, everyone is just standing there, laughing nervously as if they were all in on some grand joke that only they understand. The moment the video hit social media, it was like a spark in a dry forest, everyone had to jump on board. Within hours, hashtags like #OfficeRivalry and #BossVersusEmployee were trending, as if the entire internet had collectively decided that this wasn't just a workplace conflict but a modern-day epic. People couldn't stop dissecting every frame of the confrontation, analyzing body language, tone, and even the questionable choice of background music in the boss's office. It was like a Netflix series had just been released, except with more drama and fewer snacks. Reddit threads turned into full-blown debates, with users arguing whether the employee was justified in their outburst or if the boss was simply doing his job. Memes began to flood Twitter, featuring everything from exaggerated versions of the boss's face to the employee mid-sentence, frozen in time like a priceless artwork. One particular meme showed the boss looking at his phone while the employee was yelling, captioned, "When your employee is louder than your notifications." It went viral so fast, it made the boss question if he should have invested in better earplugs. Meanwhile, comment sections became battlegrounds of opinions, with some users calling for a full reboot of corporate culture and others arguing that this was just another day at the office. The video even started making appearances on late-night shows, where comedians turn it into a punchline about how no one really knows what happens in meetings unless they're the one being yelled at. It's like the internet had collectively decided that office life is more interesting than any reality TV show and was determined to keep watching. As the video continued to spread, influencers started creating their own versions of the confrontation, turning it into a trend. Some tried to recreate the moment with exaggerated flair, while others used it as inspiration for comedic skits. It became such a cultural phenomenon that even the office where the incident took place was flooded with visitors wanting to see the real-life version of the viral moment. The boss, now an internet icon, found himself fielding questions about his leadership style and whether he would ever apologize for his actions, though he's still waiting for someone to ask him why he didn't just walk away from the meeting in the first place. In the end, the video wasn't just a simple office argument, it became a symbol of the absurdity of modern work culture. It reminded people that behind every professional image is a human being with emotions, quirks, and a tendency to overreact when things get too heated. And while some may have laughed at the chaos, others found themselves reflecting on their own experiences in the workplace, wondering if they've ever been part of a viral moment, or at least a mildly awkward one. You know that feeling when your boss starts acting like a drama queen during a meeting? Like, they're not just giving feedback, they're performing a Shakespearean soliloquy about how you're not pulling your weight. And the rest of the office is watching, wide-eyed and ready to record it on their phone because, honestly, this is better than any reality TV show. You can almost hear the director shouting, "Cut." That was a great take, as your boss rants about your coffee mug being too small for the morning brew. Meanwhile, you're sitting there, trying not to burst into laughter while also wondering if you should start preparing an exit strategy. The tension in the room is so thick, it's like someone accidentally opened a jar of pickles and now everyone's got that "I'm about to cry or throw something" vibe. But hey, at least your colleagues are all in on the joke, right? They're nodding along like they've been through this exact scenario before, because trust me, they have. And then it happens, someone blurts out, "Wait, did you hear what happened with Sarah and Mark last week?" The room goes silent. You can feel the energy shift from awkward to electrifying in the span of a heartbeat. Suddenly, everyone's got their own version of the story, and no one knows who to believe. It's like a game of telephone, but instead of numbers, it's office gossip that could break the entire company. And you're sitting there, wondering if this is how your career is going to end, by being the center of an epic workplace feud. But here's the twist, the video goes viral. Suddenly, everyone from your aunt who works at a bank to your neighbor's cousin who never leaves their house is watching your office drama unfold like it's the next big hit on YouTube. You're not just a worker anymore, you're a protagonist in an online sensation that's getting more attention than your boss's latest PowerPoint presentation. People are commenting with theories, memes, and even some heartfelt advice about how to deal with toxic workplaces. And let's be real, some of those comments are gold. You start seeing messages like, "This is why I left my last job," or "I've been in this situation for years, but now I feel seen." It's wild how a single video can bring people together, even if they've never met. But then again, the office drama doesn't stop there. New stories start emerging, and suddenly, everyone's got a story to tell, because no one wants to be the last person standing in this epic tale of workplace rivalry. So there I was, sitting in my office, trying to pretend like the viral video wasn't a thing. But sure enough, the boss decided it was time to make an appearance on company-wide email, which is basically the least effective way to handle a crisis. They started off by saying something like, "I understand the concerns that have been raised," which sounded like they were reading from a script written by a corporate lawyer who also moonlights as a motivational speaker. It was so generic, I half expected them to add a motivational quote about team unity at the end. Then came the explanation, something about how the video was taken out of context and that the boss had been working late hours to ensure everyone's productivity. Let me just say, if your entire response is based on the idea that you're overworked and therefore misunderstood, I think the real issue might be that you're not very good at communicating with your employees. But hey, that's what we get for having a boss who thinks working late is a valid excuse for anything. The email went on to say that there would be an internal investigation into the matter, which was met with a mix of relief and confusion. Relief because it sounded like someone finally cared about transparency, but confusion because if they were doing an internal investigation, why did they feel the need to explain everything in the first place? It's like announcing a surprise party at 3 a.m. and then explaining that you're throwing it for no reason. Some people in the office thought this was a sign of accountability, finally, someone taking responsibility for their actions. Others were less impressed, arguing that the boss's response was more about deflecting blame than actually addressing the issue. It's like when your friend says they're sorry for breaking your vase but then immediately starts talking about how expensive it was and how you should have bought a better one. Not exactly the same thing, but similar vibes. In the end, the boss's response didn't really solve anything. It just added another layer of confusion to an already complicated situation. But hey, at least they tried. And if nothing else, it gave everyone a good laugh, especially when someone in the office started using the email as their new favorite meme template. So there I was, sitting at my desk, staring at a spreadsheet that looked like it had been written by a confused alien. My boss came in, dropped a memo on my desk, and said something about improving efficiency. I blinked, then blinked again, because I had no idea what he meant. But hey, who am I to question the wisdom of someone with more experience? Not that I've ever questioned anything. Ever. Then, one day, I got a message from my coworker, Sarah, who said something like, "Hey, you're not the only one who feels invisible here." That's when it hit me, maybe I wasn't just being dramatic about my lunch breaks and the lack of coffee in the office. Maybe there were others out there feeling the same way, quietly fuming while pretending to be okay with everything. I decided to take a deep breath, grab my laptop, and write a post that was basically like, "Hey, I'm not just here to do your bidding. I have feelings, too." It started as a simple rant about feeling unheard, but then it turned into this epic breakdown of how the office culture felt like a sitcom where no one actually knows what's going on. People started commenting, and suddenly I had more followers than my boss has likes on his LinkedIn profile. The response was wild. Some people were like, "Me too." Others were like, "I feel you, brother." And then there were the ones who said, "You should start a podcast about this." I didn't know what to think, but honestly, it felt kind of cool to be part of something bigger than just my cubicle. It was like joining a secret club where everyone had been silently annoyed by the same things for years. My boss read it and, well, he didn't exactly look happy. But then again, he's never looked happy. He tried to act like it was all a misunderstanding and said something about constructive feedback. I rolled my eyes because I knew what that meant. "We need to talk about your performance review." But hey, at least now there's an open dialogue, even if it's mostly me talking and him pretending to listen.